Hello and welcome once again to Murfer's Music Reviews. And on today's show, we're talking about the debut album by Radiohead, Pablo Honey. And as you can see, once again, my brother The Works has done a wonderful painting of Worker, where are you? The painting, what's going on? That's what you said. It's tennis's friend. It's Pablo the bee. They're playing tennis because that's what they do. Right. Okay. I didn't actually mean the bee Pablo that I guess makes honey when he's not playing tennis with tennis. But yes, it is a nice painting. So thank you. You're welcome. Hello, tennis. So yes, I as much as it's not really appropriate, it is a nice painting, and it probably looks better than the actual album cover, which is sort of a collection of lollies and a baby's face for seemingly no apparent reason. But then again, it was the 90s, and that's generally what album covers were. In a lot of cases, they would just have a random shot of something. But before we get on to the review, we have to do the sponsorship announcement. Dush, dush, dush. Oh, here we are. All Murferverse programming is brought to you by Home for the LD Lee. They sell Laserdiscs, they sell HD DVDs, and they sell CDs. And if you want 20% off of your order, put in the code MURF. So, dash right into their website and get yourself a good deal on Laserdiscs, HD DVDs or CDs. Home for the LD Lee, the kings of Laserdiscs. Dash. Now, something that people often bring up about the members of Radiohead is that they're quite posh. I've never been entirely sure if this is true or not. They are indeed from Abingdon in Oxfordshire, which I suppose, being part of Oxfordshire, can be seen as somewhat posh. But I've been to Oxford, I've spent a bit of time there, and I wouldn't say that all of Oxford is really that posh. There's areas of it that are actually quite deprived in a lot of ways. But Abingdon, I'd say, from what I saw of it, it's probably more middle class, if anything else. However, they did go to the Abingdon School, which is a private school. Private is what they call them in Australia. In England, they call them public schools, not to be confused with what they call public schools in Australia and America. It gets confusing, but basically, a public school in England is what a lot of other places call private school. And the Abingdon School certainly does fit that sort of posh label quite a bit. A lot of their most notable pupils are all sort of people with connections to royalty and that sort of thing. Another pupil that went there was the comedian David Mitchell, so that's something. But yes, so the band members did meet there at the Abingdon School. At this point they were called On a Friday, and this is because they rehearsed on a Friday. On a Friday did record a demo tape, which did get them an offer of a record deal from Island Records, but they decided that it wasn't the right time. They wanted to all go to university first, so they declined the offer and went to university. During his time at the University of Exeter, Tom York did play in another band. They were called the Headless Chickens, and apparently they did play some early Radiohead material. When the band did regroup, they were sharing a house on the corner of Magdalen Road and Ridgefield Road. They recorded another demo. This was called Manic Hedgehog, not after the Sonic the Hedgehog character, who is quite manic. It was named after a record shop in Oxford, unless the record shop was also named after Sonic the Hedgehog, but I doubt it because I'm not even sure that game was out yet. As fate would have it, Colin Greenwood, the band's bass player, would happen to have a copy of that demo when he was in a record shop. And it was in that record shop that he ran into Keith Wozencroft. He worked as an A&R representative for EMI. Wozencroft was impressed by the demo, and so he went along to one of their gigs. They then had a gig at the Jericho Tavern, where several other A&R representatives showed up, and despite that only being their 8th official gig, there was a lot of interest. There was a review in Melody Maker which praised their astonishing intensity, but said that their name was terrible. They then signed with EMI, and then on EMI's request, along with the previously mentioned Melody Maker review, they changed their name to Radiohead. The name Radiohead came from the song Radiohead by Talking Heads. An interesting side note, they got their name from a Talking Heads song. They weren't the only band that got their name from a Talking Heads song. You may remember we did a video about the Foo Fighters quite a while ago, and their bass player was previously in a band called Sunny Day Real Estate. That's Nate Mandel. And Sunny Day Real Estate also got their name from a Talking Heads song. Bit of trivia for you there. They released a debut EP called Drill. That didn't really get anywhere. But then they started working on what would become their first album, Pablo Honey. Now, Pablo Honey is an unusual name for an album, especially as there's nobody in the band called Pablo. But apparently it came from a sketch by a group called the Jerky Boys. And I could probably find the Jerky Boys thing on here, but based on their reputation, I'm not sure it would probably get... Well, we don't get money from these videos, so it couldn't really get demonetized. But I think in the interest of good taste, which is something we don't normally bother about on the Murferverse videos, but yes, perhaps we would not. It might be okay, but there is a sample of it in one of the songs on the album, but yes. Now I'm sure all of the regular viewers of Murfer's music reviews and all of our other Murphy content are aware of our friend Simiana, or Simi as we call her affectionately. She has a friend who is a massive Radiohead fan, and he would always tell her that you should probably avoid Pablo Honey. If you're going to listen to Radiohead, start with the Benz or OK Computer. And looking at it now, having listened to the album quite a few times in the process of doing this review, I'm not sure what he meant. There's really nothing wrong with the album. Is it as good as the stuff that would come later? Well, we'll play some clips throughout this and you can perhaps make your own mind up. But personally I think that no, it's perfectly fine. It perhaps isn't on the same level of their later work, but yes, I don't know. You can make up your own mind as we go along, and I'll give my proper review at the end. The album starts with a mid-tempo rocker called You. This is followed up by the song that everybody knows from this album, which is called Creep.
You float like a feather in a beautiful world. I wish I was special. You're so very special. But I'm a creep.
And the interesting thing here is the version on the album and the single version, which is probably the version that more people have heard, there is a slight difference. There is one line that had to be changed because people weren't going to play it. Although according to Wikipedia, at one point the BBC weren't going to play it anyway because they found it too depressing, which is a theme that seems to run through a lot of Radiohead's music. I don't know if I find it that depressing, at least not this particular song. But yes, so in the album version he sings "So fucking special," and on the single version it's "So very special." So that's the difference.
I wish I was special. You're so fucking special.
This is followed up by "How Do You," which I would personally say probably reminds me more of their fellow Oxford band Supergrass. But Supergrass hadn't released anything yet, so yes, it's an interesting connection there. Maybe they'd played together on the live scene in Oxford. I don't know, but yes, I'd say that it maybe one inspired the other. Maybe it's a complete coincidence, or maybe they were both inspired by the same things. This next song, Stop Whispering, has a very sort of REM kind of vibe to it. At least that's how I feel. Certainly our early REM, I should specify there. More their 80s and even perhaps early 90s stuff rather than the later stuff, which makes sense because this album was recorded in 1992, so how could they be influenced by REM stuff from the late 90s? That would be weird. Unless they're time travelers or something. I could ask Time Lord about that, but yes.
And the wise men say I don't want to hear your voice. And the thin men say I don't want to hear your voice. And the curse in me, and they won't let me be. And there's nothing to say, and there's nothing to do. Stop whispering, start shouting.
We then have the slightly folk rock-ish ballad, Thinking About You.
Been thinking about you, and there's no rest. Should I still love you, still see you in bed? But I'm playing with myself. What do you care when the other men are far, far better? All the things you got, all the things you need. Who bought you cigarettes? Who bribed the company to come and see you, honey?
And this is followed by one of the highlights from the album and one of the singles, Anyone Can Play Guitar.
Destiny, hold my hand, protect me from the world. Here we are, without running and confusion, and it don't seem no confusion anywhere. And if the world does turn, and if London burns, I'll be standing on the beach with my guitar. I want a better band when I get to heaven. Anyone can play guitar, they won't be nothing anymore.
There's then a slight Pixies vibe on the next song, Ripcord.
So destroyed with clever toys for little brains. It's inevitable, inevitable. It's a soul destroyed. Free till you try, free till you've had enough, and you don't understand. No record, no record, no record, no record.
Another song I feel has a very strong REM influence is Vegetable.
I never wanted anything but this. I worked hard, tried hard. I ran around in domestic bliss. I fought hard, died hard. Every time
Things get a bit grungier on the song Prove Yourself.
I'm better off.
The next song is a little bit more radio pop friendly, I suppose, although it wasn't released as a single. Maybe it would have been successful if it was. I think it has a sort of commercial vibe to it, though. It's called I Can't.
Please forget the words that I just made up. It wasn't me, it was a stranger creeping down. It keeps rattling my cage, and there's nothing in this world will keep it down.
The next song, Lurgy, kind of reminds me of the dream pop groups that were around at the time and a bit earlier, such as the Cocteau Twins and Lush.
Tell me something. Tell me something I don't know. Tell me one thing. Tell me one thing. Let it go. I got something. I got something. Heaven knows I got something. I got something I don't know.
The album closes with Blowout, which starts with a sort of a bossa nova feel and sort of builds and builds and builds into this cacophony of, well, it's kind of a blowout at the end. It just sort of gets louder and louder until it can't go any further. So, yes. I'd say that this is probably the closest to what you'd get from Radiohead later on, which I guess is appropriate closing the album, as it kind of sets the tone more so for what was going to come, really more than anything else on this record. Yeah, I really don't see why a lot of Radiohead fans seem to write off this album, because, okay, it may not be up there with their greatest work, but I'd still say that it's a really good record, so I'm going to give it 3 out of 4 opposable thumbs up. And before we move on to that thing that I do where I kind of go through the rest of the band's career, I just wanted to bring up Creep again, because I forgot to mention this earlier, because they were actually sued over that one. You see, the chord structure and vocal melody were deemed too similar to The Air That I Breathe, perhaps best known as being recorded by the Hollies.
No cigarettes, no sleep, no lights, no sound, nothing to eat, no bus to read. I don't care if it hurts. I wanna have control. I want a perfect body. I want a perfect soul.
Although in Australia it was used for a throat lozenges commercial, I think. It was either that or Vicks VapoRub, something like that. That song was written by Mike Hazelwood and Albert Hammond, and as a result, future copies of the Radiohead album and the single, and anything that had Creep on it, had to include their names along with Radiohead as writers of Creep. There seems to be some conflicting reports as to whether they knew they were ripping off the song, or whether it was, an intentional thing. I read something where the guitar player, Ed O'Brien, did notice that the chords were the same, So, and they sort of went with it anyway. Um, but then other things said that they didn't really realize it. So I'm not sure whether that's can be confirmed 100% or not. It is probably likely that they at least noticed the chord structure being similar. Now, in the same era of Radiohead as Pablo Honey, we have the non-album single Pop Is Dead.
Oh no, Papa's dead, long live Pop. It died an ugly death by back catalog. And now you know, I guess you know well. And now you know you realize. Oh no, Papa's dead, it just gave up.
So the next album was The Bends, which we'll probably do a video on at some point because it's an amazing album. But we're only going to go through the singles because otherwise we'll be here all day. So yes, the first single was My Iron Lung.
This is only song, just like the last one. A total waste of time.
And this song was kind of, I think, the Radiohead basically saying, we are not Creep. You know, don't sort of box us into being that band that did Creep. This was followed by High and Dry, which is sort of a more slower, mellow song. It was actually released as a double A-side with Planet Telex, but that didn't get a video. High and Dry did. It got two videos. It got a UK version and a US version. Maybe they spent the budget for what would have been a Planet Telex video on making a separate video for the same song. I don't know, but yes.
Don't leave me high. Don't leave me dry. Don't leave me high. Don't leave me dry. The green plastic watering can for a fake Chinese rubber plant and a fake plastic girl. That she bought from a rubber man in a town full of rubber plants to get rid of itself. The words around. The words around.
This is followed by a personal favourite of mine. This is Just.
Can't get the stink off. He's been hanging around for days. Comes like a comet. Suck at you, but not your friends. And then he'll get to you and teach you how to be a holy cow. You do it to yourself, you do. That's why Radiohead says you do it to yourself, just you. You and no one else, you do it to yourself. You do it to yourself.
And then Street Spirit, Fade Out.
This machine will not communicate these thoughts and the strain I am under. We watch out for a circle before we all go under. Fade
After that, they did release the title track, The Bend, as a single, but they didn't make a video, so we could probably find a live recording, but we've already done the main part of the video, so you can find that in your own time. Then we get to OK Computer, which again is another album we should probably do a video on at some point. And the first single was Paranoid Android.
When I am king, you will be fast against the wall.
And this song was actually their highest charting UK single at the time, getting to number 3. The video is also quite unusual. It's done by the video who did the animated cult show. I don't know if you'd really call it a comedy, because I remember watching it at the time, and it's just more fucking weird than anything else. Which I guess kind of fits Radiohead, and it certainly fits the song. But it was called Robin, and yes, you could probably find bits of it online. Yes, it's odd. This was followed up by one of their most well-known songs, Karma Police.
This is what you'll get. This is what you'll get. This is what you'll get when you mess with us.
The next single was Lucky, but it wasn't very lucky because it didn't chart in the UK. And once again, no video, so we'll just gloss over that for now. Or if there is a video, it's not on the DVD that we have, so yes. The next video, though, is another one of their most well-known songs, No Surprises.
I'll take a quiet life, handshake of carbon monoxide, and no surprises, no surprises,
And after that, the band went into a more unconventional direction with their albums Kid A and Amnesiac. They didn't release any videos or singles from Kid A. Well, technically they did a video for every song on Kid A. There's a live performance where they just played the whole album, and they sent that out as the videos for the album. But there wasn't really any singles. Yes, it was a more experimental album that... It was certainly divisive with fans. The next album, Amnesiac, and I remember this being reviewed at the time as now containing singles, because the previous album didn't contain any singles. The two singles were Pyramid Song and Knives Out.
So knives out, catch the mouse, don't look down, shove it in your mouth.
I wasn't particularly a fan of the Kid A Amnesiac era, but the next album, Hail to the Thief, was really what sort of solidified me as a Radiohead fan. I'd liked a few songs before that, but I'd not really gotten into, the albums and all that yet, and I sort of regret not having done that, because that I should have given them more of a chance. Yes, they definitely won me over with Hail to the Thief, which is an amazing album, and we'll do a video about that at some point. The first single is There There. This was followed up by a favourite song of mine, Go to Sleep.
Something big is gonna happen over my dead body. Someone started over my dead body. This is how I'm certain over my dead body. I'm gonna go to sleep and let this wash over me.
And the final single from that album was called 2 + 2 = 5.
You can scream it, you can shout, and it's too late now. Because you're not meditation.
Now, when Radiohead initially signed with EMI, they'd signed a 6-record contract, and at this point the record contract was up, and they could have re-signed with them, but instead decided to go independent. And their first independent release was called In Rainbows, and most people will remember this one because it was available for free on their website. Well, I say for free. The idea was you paid what you wanted, and so most people paid nothing and got it for free. They released 2 singles from In Rainbows. They both did fairly well in the charts, but it was sort of all down here, as far as at least from a sales point of view goes after that. And it's also, this is kind of where my interest in the band kind of falls off too. I've enjoyed some solo stuff that each member has done since, but yeah, I didn't even really think In Rainbows was that great, to be honest. And when I heard the singles from the next album, King of Limbs, I just thought, what the fuck is this crap? So, yes, I never bought that record, and probably never will, and it probably won't get a review. I'm told that the follow-up to that, A Moon-Shaped Pool, is a return to form, so perhaps I'll listen to that at some point. It's been out for a decade now, and I just haven't really felt the urge to listen to it, but I do always go back to those earlier records, especially The Bends and Hail to the Thief. The band members all have side projects, except for Colin Greenwood, who does other things on the side, but usually as a sideman for various other people. But everybody else has released a solo album, at least. Tom York and Johnny Greenwood have done a lot of soundtracks. They've both done quite well at doing soundtracks, especially Tom York, who's been quite highly regarded for Yes, Tennis. Oh, well, I was just thinking we could review that movie too. Well, depending on copyright issues, because we are filming them both on the same day, people may not have seen your review of Beautiful Creatures yet. Oh, yes. So, viewers at home, we do have a lot of issues with copyright on this channel, especially with the reviews, so it's possible you've already seen my review of Beautiful Creatures, which we're filming directly after filming this one, but you may see it before this, if this one has had to be re-edited for copyright reasons. I should also bring up that there is a connection there, because Tennis interrupted my review of the new number 2, because they were the ones who did the soundtrack to that. And one of the members of that group is Paul Hicks, whose father was Tony Hicks, who was in The Hollies, who I mentioned earlier with The Air That I Breathe. So yes, this might be a bit confusing for you if you've already seen my review of Beautiful Creatures. If not, look forward to that next week, and I guess I'll see you next week, or last week, or whenever I do the Suspiria review. I think I covered that okay. Hello, Tennis! Now, something that I've not done in these videos for a long time is given gorilla points, but it is appropriate here because Tom York from Radiohead is indeed a vegetarian, so gorilla points to him. and possibly the rest of the band, but we've not been able to find any concrete proof either way. But he is definitely a vegetarian and has been for a very long time. So yes, I think that concludes our Radiohead video. And if someone wants to hear about the other Radiohead singles after that, we might cover that when we cover one of the other albums. But this video is probably already a bit long as it is. So yes. Anyway, thank you for joining us here on Murfer's Music Reviews. Don't forget we do have a website. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment, and all of that lovely stuff. What else? Oh yes, Home for the LD League. Don't forget to check them out. Don't forget to tune in next week for some more Murphing. And also keep an eye out for the next time we do a Murfer's Music Review!